When most people think about the word options, they generally think about two things: gambling and screenshots on Reddit from Wall Street bets, which is gambling. And honestly, that's fair because most people learn about options in the worst possible way. In this series, I'm going to explain options like an investor, not as a gambler. There's going to be no YOLOs, no Lambos, and no turning $1,000 into $100,000 overnight. I'm going to explain what options actually are, how they work, and why they even exist in the first place. And hey, if you play your cards right, you may even be able to get that Lambo. Just not quite overnight. Ready? Let's go. Okay, so this episode in the series is part 1, which is just the basics. What is a call option? What is a put option? How do they actually work? And what do they represent? There are no strategies in this video. This video is just about understanding the tools and mechanics. But I will be going into strategies in future videos. At its core, an option is just a very basic contract. That's it. It's a contract that gives the buyer the right, but not the obligation, to purchase or sell a stock at a fixed price on or before a certain date. That's the whole thing. You're not buying the stock, you're buying a choice. And every choice has 3 things. Number 1, the choice of stock, which is known as the underlying asset. Number 2, the choice of price, which is known as the strike price. And number 3, the expiration date, which is the date that the contract ends. Every option contract actually controls 100 shares. So if you see an option that costs $2 to purchase, it really costs $200 to purchase because it is $2 per share. Let's start off by describing the most basic type of option, which is known as a call option. A call option gives the buyer the right, but once again, not the obligation to purchase a stock at a fixed price by a set date. An easy way to think of this is that the word call means to buy. When you buy a call, you're saying, I think that this stock is going to go up in value. Now, buying a call is known as a bullish or a long strategy. For example, let's say that there's a stock trading at $50 and you think that it might continue to go up to $55 over the next month. You buy a call option for $1, which is really $100, with a strike price of $52. That means you have the right to buy that stock for $52 a share anytime over the next 30 days, even if you're right and it does go to $55. You don't own the stock yet, but you own the right to buy it. And this is what makes options so enticing. By purchasing a call option, you're able to own a position for a fraction of the cost. Normally, owning 100 shares of the underlying stock would cost us $5,000, but by purchasing this option for $100, we're able to control $5,000 worth of assets, which leads to leverage and risk reduction. Our total loss is limited to the $100 that we paid for the call option, but we are still controlling $5,000 worth of assets. Now, let's assume that you are right and the stock does go to $55. Well, congratulations. You just tripled your money and netted yourself a $200 profit. We paid $100 for the call option itself, but we get to take the difference between $52 and $55, which is a $300 profit, netting us a total of $200. However, if the stock is not over $52 by the expiration date, that's it. The contract expires worthless, we lose our $100, and it's over. And this is exactly why people think that options are gambling. Because when you buy calls, you need the stock to go up by a certain amount, by a certain date, and preferably as soon as possible. And that's a lot of things that have to go right. Now, a put option is the opposite of a call option. So in this case, you can think that the word put means to sell. A put gives you the right, but once again not the obligation, to sell a stock at a certain price by a set date. If you buy a put, what you're saying is, I think this stock is going to go down in value. As an example, let's say that there's a stock trading at $50 and you think that it's going to fall to $45 over the next 30 days. You buy a put for $1 with a strike price of $48 and an expiration date that's 30 days into the future. This means you have the right to sell the stock at $48 even if it drops to $45 or below. Now again, you don't own the stock, you just own the contract. Now let's say you are right. Let's actually say that the stock went further and crashed all the way down to $40. You would have made a profit of $700 on only a $100 expense. Pretty sweet, right? However, if the stock never goes below 48 over that 30-day period, that's it. The contract expires worthless, you lose your $100, do not pass go, and go directly to jail with all the other degenerate gamblers where you can sit, cry, and think about how you're going to create some elaborate trading system to never lose money buying put options ever again. Quite simple. So, to recap, both calls and puts have an expiration date, and they can go to zero. They also both lose value over time, which brings us to the most important point, which is time decay, also known as theta. You see, options are decaying assets. They're like melting ice cubes in the palm of your hand. Every day that passes, your option is worth just a little bit less. Now, this is because with less time for the underlying asset to move, the probability of that stock exceeding the strike price diminishes, making your option worth less money. Once again, this is called time decay or theta, and this is where the game flips. If you're the buyer of an option, then time works against you as the value of your option decreases because the chance of you being correct or correct to an extent or degree is going down. However, if you are the seller of an option, then as time passes, the value of the option still decreases, which works in your favor as you can now buy back that option for less than you sold it for. And the reason for this is because as time passes, it's looking more and more like you're going to be correct. As an option buyer, time is your enemy. As an option seller, however, time is your BFF. You see, most people are taught how to buy options. Almost nobody explains how selling them is the smarter choice with more predictable outcomes and the ability to fix some mistakes. For now, just understand this. When you buy an option, you are renting time. And the longer you stay, the more the rent keeps going up. It's important to note that options were never invented or intended as gambling instruments. They are actually intended for hedging, insurance, and risk control. Farmers use contracts like these to lock in prices. Pipelines use contracts like these to lock in prices. And investors use contracts like these to lock in prices. Modern trading culture has really turned options into online lottery tickets. But structurally, options are more about saying, I want certainty about future price. Calls give certainty about buying, and puts give certainty about selling. It's also important to remember that with options, every single contract has a buyer and a seller. One person pays for the contract, which is obviously the buyer, and the seller of the contract collects the payment, which is known as premium. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most option buyers lose money. However, most option sellers win smaller amounts of money very frequently. And this is not because option sellers are some type of genius, but it's because time decay, probability, and human impatience are all working in the seller's favor. We will talk about being both a buyer and a seller in this series, and I will let you decide which one you want to be. But generally, When selling options, it's quite clear how options stop looking like gambling and start looking like real investing. Now that you understand what a call is, what a put is, what an expiration means, and why time matters, we can actually do something useful with it. In part 2, I'm going to go over covered calls, which is how you can get paid to hold stocks that you already own. And in part 3, we'll go over cash secured puts, which is how you can get paid to buy stocks you already want. And if being paid to wait sounds too boring for you, good. That's the point. Now we're starting to think like investors and not gamblers. It's not supposed to be exciting. If you're still unclear about any of the concepts I've touched on in this video, or just want some more clarification, please comment, ask any questions. I will answer any questions that you have. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. As always, thank you for watching Snackable Wealth, where I provide blunt and honest money talk for Canadians, and I'll see you in episode 2.